Hello everyone, good to see you all, hope you're well. Now today I'm going to talk about AI, and I'm going to talk about particularly this panic about AI and give you maybe a different perspective or a historical perspective on this whole thing. And it's certainly true, if history teaches us anything, it's that every generation that's ever existed believes that it is living through a technological revolution, which is unlike anything that had come before. And that revolution will destroy something essential about human life. And at the moment, AI is playing that role. We're told that it's going to end jobs, it's going to end creativity, it's going to end democracy, possibly end civilization altogether. There's so much of this out there, which you will have seen. The language is always apocalyptic. And it's presented as a threat that's so unprecedented that history has nothing to teach us about it. But this isn't true, because none of this is new. And as ever, history is the best antidote to panic. If you look back, what you find is that every major technology has been greeted with the same mixture of awe and dread and moral outrage. So AI isn't the exception. It's just simply the latest chapter in a very, very long story. And the story always begins the same way, with the confident declaration that this time it's going to be different. But it never is. Let me give you some examples. Now, when motor cars first emerged in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the reaction wasn't excitement, but it was fear. It was a deep, kind of visceral panic. Doctors warned that the speed of cars, which was a blistering 20 miles an hour, was unnatural and would cause a whole range of physical and mental ailments. And if you look in serious scholarly journals, they wrote about this new syndrome, delirium motoritis it was called, which is motor madness essentially. They do the same with trains as well. But in this condition, the idea is the noise and vibration of early engines would overstimulate the human brain. It would cause hysteria, insomnia, even psychosis. Some early sort of motoring experts warned that, traveling at such terrifying speeds as 30 miles an hour would pull the skin back from the driver's face, leaving them permanently disfigured. They'd sort of freeze in that kind of condition. Women were told that driving would damage their reproductive organs, and therefore it would threaten the very survival of the human race, because women couldn't provide children for the next generations. While children themselves, it was said, were at risk of nervous breakdown simply from seeing a car go past. You never put a child in one, but seeing one go past was enough. Now, the key thing about all this is that the arguments were always framed as moral, not practical. So cars weren't just dangerous machines, they were corrupting. They undermined traditional values. They encouraged recklessness, they eroded self-discipline, and essentially unpicked the moral fabric of society. They represented a world that was just moving too fast for human beings to cope, rather like AI. Now, it all seems very silly to us, this whole thing. Today, the car is just another kind of appliance. It's like a toaster or a washing machine. The terror faded and the world adapted, and the warnings of moral collapse all evaporated. But what lingered was the truth beneath every technological scare, is that it's never really about the machine. It's about the anxieties that people project onto it. You have the same thing with the telephone. When the telephone arrived, the panic was instant. People would lose the art of conversation. Families would stop speaking to one another. Young people would become addicted to the thrill of instant communication with their peers. Criminals would use it to plan their next murders or robberies. And, on an aesthetic level, the intimacy and beauty of the human voice, they believed, would be corrupted by wires and electricity and so on. Others predicted social collapse. People would become isolated, unable to cope with face-to-face interaction anymore. They wouldn't be able to actually that would scare them. Some even feared that it would erode class boundaries. Because the idea is, if anyone can call anyone, what happens to hierarchy? I mean, what if the wrong sort of person were to call you directly? They could reach you now through a telephone. Now again, the key point about all this is that the anxiety we project onto smartphones today is almost exactly the same. None of this is new. We've been expressing the same fears for more than a century. But what happened? I mean, within a generation, the telephone wasn't viewed as a threat at all. It becomes a symbol of connection, not isolation. The panic faded, the world adapted, and like the car, the device quietly became just part of the furniture. Indeed, kind of ironically today, the telephone feels rather genteel compared to the relentless, always-on communication that we live with. Now, by the time we reached the 1960s, computers were the new threat. The fear now was the rise of the machine mind. Politicians warned that it would cause mass unemployment. Economists predicted a future in which machines would do all the thinking for us. Philosophers wrote books worrying that human empathy would be replaced by cold, calculating, logical machines. And of course, Hollywood movies imagine computers taking over the world or controlling nuclear weapons or controlling governments, even controlling human consciousness in the end. The language of the computer scare of the 1960s is almost identical to today's headlines about the threat of AI. The only difference is the date. And yet, here we are now. We're still employed, we're still thinking, we're still human, we're still empathetic. So computers changed the world, yes, they did. But they didn't end it. And the fears that surrounded them, the loss of control, loss of identity, loss of meaning and so on, are exactly the same fears we project onto AI today. So the thing is, the first AI panic has already happened. We just forgot about it. So the big question is, why do we panic about new technology? Why do we repeat the same fears again and again? Why do we forget that we've been here before and rehearsed all this years before? And this is where the story now becomes uncomfortable. Because the fear of technology is not just about machines. It's about who the machines threaten. And that is part of the conversation that we rarely talk about. Because technological fear is not evenly distributed. It never has been. It follows lines of class and power and identity. Because remember, for most of history, technological disruption hit the working class first and hit them hardest. Mechanized looms replaced skilled weavers. Factory automation replaced craftsmen. Agricultural machinery replaced farmhands. Self-checkout replaced cashiers at supermarkets, etc., etc. And every time, working class people were told the same thing. Stop complaining, progress is inevitable, adapt or be left behind. If they resisted, they were mocked as Luddites. If they protested, they were treated as obstacles to progress. So the cultural message was clear. Technological disruption is good. It's progressive. It's a good thing. And working class people lived through wave after wave of such technological change. They adapted because they had no choice. They weren't given any choice. And society just treated them as kind of backward, irrational, even stupid. And the irony, of course, is that, the original Luddites themselves were not anti-technology at all. They were skilled workers who were protesting the misuse of technology. That's what it was really about, which would undercut wages and de-skill labour and so on. But history, of course, flattens them into a caricature. The ignorant worker smashing the machine he doesn't understand. It's a very convenient story. That is, of course, for everyone except the workers themselves. And it's the story we've been telling ourselves now for 2 centuries. To put it plainly, working class people have always carried the burden of technological change, and they have done so without the luxury of panic. But today, you see, things are different, because AI threatens not manual workers, but the white-collar professional middle class. The people who write the newspapers, who run the institutions and shape the cultural narrative. Journalists, designers, analysts, academics like me. People whose work was once considered immune to the threat of the maniacal machine. But because of this, suddenly the tone shifts. Suddenly, panic in the face of technological change is respectable. Suddenly, it's an existential crisis. It's the end of civilization itself. So the thing is, you see, when machines threatened miners and mill workers, it was called progress. When machines threaten copywriters and consultants, it's called the apocalypse. The technology isn't different, but the class experiencing the disruption is. And that is why the panic about AI feels louder, sharper, and more urgent today. Because the people affected now have cultural power. They have a platform. They can write the news stories. They can appear on television. They can write their books. They teach in our schools and our universities. They can influence policy. They can shape the narrative. Working class people never had that luxury. And here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of the panic around AI is not about the technology at all. It's about the fear of losing status. And there is nothing, of course, the middle class value more than status. So for generations, middle class identity has rested on the belief that their work is intellectual, creative, or centered on directing and organizing others to do things, and therefore safely out of the reach of automation. AI challenges that belief. And that's why the reaction is so emotive that we see today. Why the airwaves are crowded with these prophets of doom. Because for the first time, the people sounding the alarm are the ones who thought they were untouchable. AI itself, of course, it feels uncanny because it touches identity. It threatens the idea that intelligence, creativity, and expertise are uniquely human. But the fear itself, the predictions of collapse, the rhetoric of doom and so on, we've heard all of that before. And history shows that every generation believes its machines will be the ones that finally break civilization. But every generation has been wrong in that assumption. So just like the phone, the car, and the printing press, AI will change the world. But if history is any guide, it won't end it. Thanks a lot, everyone. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.